From the News Channel 5 Network and Out and About newspaper, this is Out and About Today.
Welcome to Out and About Today. I'm Brent Meredith. We have yet another jam-packed show for you tonight. Pam will be joined by a few community leaders for our first ever Battle of the Sexes segment. And on tonight's Entertainment Outlook, Chuck Long will get a preview of Pippin coming to TPAC soon. But first, you know we'd like to kick things off with our weekly Buzz About, and I'm joined by my incredible co-hosts, Pam Wheeler and Chuck Long. Good to see you both. You're both incredible, right?
To incredible. I like that. Exciting.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we don't have a lot of time, and we got a lot to say, so let's jump in. So Nashville Public Library just received the Brooks Fund's Oral History Project last month. We've talked about this on her before and what the project means, but we've got a little clip I want you guys to check out first, and then we'll talk about it on the back end.
Back when I told my father I was going to law school, he quickly said that I would make a fine judge because he says, "You do not show emotion in your face." And I did not understand it then, or did not try to understand it. But years later, I understood this. That's because I've been an actor most of my life.
So that was Casey Potter, which, as you know, is the namesake of the Casey Potter Center at Vanderbilt. He was a professor there for years and was one of the Oral History Project members. But what do you guys take away from something like this? Oh, and by the way, that was a clip from the documentary that's coming next after the installation gets into the library.
I think it's great. I mean, I think it is so important, and especially as we see generations come up, they need to know the stories because it was such a different time. You know, the generation before us, and now our generation, and then the generation after us.
Oh, and this is pre-1970. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, pre-1970.
So it's just incredible because even as things come up, you know, with the different topics that the LGBT community has had to deal with through the years, you find in the younger generation sometimes they're just not aware of a lot that happened. And to be able to hear these stories and what they went through and to put it down and preserve it, I think is just incredible.
Yeah, and the Brooks Fund website has the rest of the trailer, which has a couple more clips from some other interviews, which are really powerful interviews from these folks. Why do you think it's important for us to do this, and will you guys go see it?
I will definitely go see it, absolutely. You know, through the years, we've talked about trying to grab onto our history. We went to folks to figure out, how did we get where we are?
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful, you know, any kind of history. I think we're all fans to learn the gay history in Nashville, to have a place to go. Oh, it's just remarkable. And to hear, you know, things have changed so much.
Yeah.
And to go back and think, wow, this is what it was like then. And I did go to the website and look at several of those interviews, and it's just quite fascinating ahead of the documentary. I think people should check it out.
Well, and you and I were on the Brooks Fund board many years ago when they first were getting this started, which also, you know, shows us how long this has taken. We're saying this is about 8 or 9 years now that they've been working on this project. So are you guys planning to go see it yourself at the
Absolutely.
library?
And, you know, and even reading some of the stories, too, about, you know, when people, you know, in the 70s and 80s, and obviously before then, I mean, they weren't able to talk about anything. They just, like they said, I guess they put on a face. They became actors. You could, you know, and to me, to be repressed like that, I don't even know. I feel, you know, I felt repression growing up ourselves, but that kind of repression I didn't have to experience, or you couldn't even talk about it. I mean, that's terrible. But it's good to know that they're able to talk about it.
Yeah, again, important to know where we've come from so we know where to go. So our next topic, moving right along, we can't skip marriage. We talk about it. We talk about gay marriage every month. But Alabama recently, of course, passed. Or God, I can't even speak tonight. I'm sorry. Is allowing marriage, but of course it's Alabama, so there has to be a caveat. So Roy Moore, the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, called for his state's governor to oppose the tyranny of federal courts. Basically, don't pay attention to what they've said. Keep doing what we've been doing because we have a state constitutional ban on this. There's a picture of him right now, very vehemently opposing us. Angry. I mean, there's a lot of anger in that face. If you'll remember, this is the same guy who had the Ten Commandment installation and was basically booted out of the Supreme Court, but then voted back in again in Alabama. So how does someone like this continue to get elected, do you think? I mean, is there? I want to look at this, you know, sort of from the people who had voted him into office. Clearly, there's people who want this, but how does that keep happening?
Well, I think because there's still a big divide. Sure, we can say 60% in the country are for marriage equality, but there's 40% that are not. And I know we're going to talk about this again and again until we hit June or July and the Supreme Court makes a decision. But there are people that no matter what is said, they're not going to, they have the Bible they rely on or whatever it is, they're not going to accept it, and they're going to do whatever they can.
Well, and of course, he wants to be seen as being against it for his own reasons. But Chuck, you were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say, and to me, and it always comes from, in this area, it comes from fear-based, situations, whether or not it's politically fear-based, whether or not it's personally fear-based. I mean, it's just over and over and over. And to me, and that look on his face said it all. But it's just, you wonder when the tide is going to turn enough where they don't feel like they have to shout this kind of, objection.
Sure. Well, let's shift gears again, because this is something that's come out fairly recently. The Mormon Church, I'm sure you guys both heard the announcement they made, that we don't have any sort of imagery for this, but I'll explain quickly. So they basically convened a press conference, said that they would support some legislation for LGBT inclusion and equality, but they want religious exemption. So it's, we love you, but same story, different day, what's the deal?
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah. Well, to me, once again, you're basically, to me, it's you're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
So they're saying, oh yeah, this is okay, but we want this to me, you need to look at these separately. And it's fine if you want to look at them separately. I mean, I think that's the way to do it. But to try to, say you can have this, dangle the carrot here, but, then you've got to take this.
Well, and I wonder, too, because I know there was a bit of a divide within the church about, there were some members of the church who wanted to be more open, others who weren't. So you wonder if this was an attempt to just bring unity to even just their internal core group.
Throw a carrot.
Exactly, throw a carrot internally and kind of, pardon the phrase, kill two birds with one stone.
Right.
So anyway, I found that very interesting that they actually called a press conference to do that.
Right.
In our last little segment here, I want to make sure we get to this. So this is kind of on the heels of some sexual assault, and we know there were some issues in Nashville recently that were solved on college campuses, that is. But this is really more towards sort of a gay male sexual assault issue. And we have a clip here we'll show and talk on the backside.
My name is Andrew. I'm a senior at Brown University, and I am a survivor of sexual assault. I was assaulted on my 6th night of college. Right during orientation, when everyone is getting to know each other, walking into people's rooms and seeing what they did with the place, and sort of feeling like, wow, this is going to be something really exciting.
So now, what do you guys think about this? I mean, this is obviously an issue, gay, straight, whatever. Why are we having this now? What is this rise?
I just think it's so important because I know a lot of times men, especially in the past, gay, straight, whatever the situation, feels like it would be a sign of weakness to come out and talk about this kind of thing, but it's not.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, this is what happened, and people need to be able to speak up. Whether you're male, whether you're female, if this happens, you need to speak up, and I think this is going to help people.
Yeah, and the sad part about this is the assailant here, who was finally expelled from school, had 2 other reports against him in this same issue. So it's just not going anywhere. People need to speak out. And I'm sorry we're just about out of time. I really wanted to talk more about that, Pam. I know you've got an opinion.
Of course, but I agree with Chuck a lot of times. And on this, I agree.
Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate your insights tonight. Thank you so much. And when we come back, Pam will have a battle of the sexes. Stay with us.